you ready for this?
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 29th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. So I'm your host, Linus Daz Kilius, and with me as always is Mystic. How's it going, Mystic?
Pretty good.
And LiQuid. How's it going, LiQuid?
Really good.
Really, why is that?
Really, Open Division's done. We're set up for playoffs this weekend. It's a good time for Heroes Esports.
What, esports is making you excited?
I mean, Daz, I've been working 18-hour days patching because of the stupid malware since Saturday. So that is the one thing I'm holding on to right now.
Good to hear. I'm actually pretty excited too. I only catch a couple games a week. I know it's like blasphemy to you, but still, I'm pretty excited in general to catch the Crucible in particular. So, okay, well, why don't we jump right in? We got a lot to talk about this week. Surprise. Hopefully it won't be too rushed. We've got D.Va that we're going to deep dive into. We're going to go over a talent tree and just a little bit more in depth than our first impressions that we did last week. And the same thing for Tyrande and Alarak as well. We've got a lot to say on those topics. So let's just, like I said, dive right into it. We're going to start, of course, as always, by thanking our patrons over at patreon.com/thenexustrolls. This show is always going to be free, but if you're looking for a way to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/thenexustrolls, and you can feel free to do so there. So let's just jump right into the news, and I wish I had my bumper queued. Here it is.
Someday, this will make a great story.
So we mentioned this last week. It's a tournament that we're putting on called Creators of the Storm. We haven't really pushed it very hard. I'm going to make some more announcements on Reddit and Twitter in the coming weeks. But it's something you should definitely circle on your calendar and get ready for. It's June 24th. It's going to be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch, and it's probably going to be about a 6-hour event total. What it is it's a tournament that involves exclusively podcast writers for Blizzard, writers for Heroes of the Storm on various sites and podcasters. And we're all going to be taking part in a friendly tournament with kind of crazy rule sets and such too. So head over to Twitch on June the 24th. Check that out. We've got a website, creatorsofthestorm.com. I'm going to list here who is going to be involved in it. So far, it's the Nexus Trolls, us, the Weekly Blizz Pro, Lords of the Storm, Heroes Power Hour, Gankbush Squad, and Realm Maintenance. There's a couple more shows that are going to be coming on shortly. So it's going to be kind of cool. You're going to be able to see a lot of your favorite podcasting personalities on different mashup teams. And it's also going to be hosted by Haloran as well on his channel. So keep posted on that. Again, creatorsofthestorm.com is where you can go for all your information. We're going to have more info on that going forward as we get closer to the date. So there's the Nexus Challenge. We're in week 4. LiQuid, you want to tell us about that?
So week 4 is probably the week that we will see the return of the Overwatch crazies who want to AFK. And that is because if you play 5 QM unranked or ranked games with a friend, you will earn 10 loot boxes in Overwatch and 10 loot boxes in Heroes. And I have to be honest, my wife has been looking forward to this. She loves loot boxes. So yeah, we'll be getting our games in probably tomorrow.
I got mine in last night and I totally forgot the week had started already, and I was like, what? I just got 10 loot boxes? I had no idea what for. I thought Blizzard was just giving me a pat on the back for no apparent reason. I was like, did I hit a milestone? I didn't read to see what week 4 was bringing us. I was assuming it was more skins and such, but yeah, it's a nice surprise.
Something else to point out, Alebeard and I went back and forth on Twitter about this a little bit this week. This patch was also supposed to bring the welcome kit, or welcome bundle from Blizzard. It was going to be a real money purchase. It was going to include some loot boxes, a hero, 800 gems, and a couple other things. That did not arrive in the patch. That will be here next week. So if you're looking for more ways to get loot boxes, that will be here next week, which is important for people like me because I bought my wife 40 loot boxes the other day and was looking to increase that with another 800 gems, so I gotta wait until that's available.
So is that the reason you were looking out for it? Is because
Yes. I knew she'd want the zebra mount, which is also something you get out of there. I wanted the zebra mount, and I wanted to give her loot boxes. So, yeah. I went looking for it.
Yeah, I saw you and LB are talking about it on Twitter too. So I guess keep an eye out for that. Should be hopefully coming in next week then. Try hard for good. Mystic, have you been keeping up with it recently? Have you got an update on how Skara, Voyboy, and Dyrus have been doing?
Oh yeah, Dyrus got to Grandmaster, and he got hooked on the game, I think, where he started playing, and then he's like, oh, just one more, and he just kept going, and eventually got to Grandmaster. Voyboy started off strong, and then he kind of teetered off a little bit at the end. While he was trying really hard to make it to Grandmaster, I think he got like really close, but he didn't make it. Skara bringing up the rear, he played some, and then he got to, I think, Diamond, and then he's like, wait, I really need to like catch up to everybody else. So he like grinded out a lot of them at the end, and I think he managed to make it to Master.
Yeah, the competitive gene started to kick in. So
Well, and he literally, so like I followed this really closely, mostly because of Dyrus and some of the things that went on around him. But once that started, I started keeping track of all of them. Skara literally made it to Master with like 4 minutes to spare. Like the clock was counting down. He was in his last game. His last game enabled him to get the promotion to Master. And Voyboy was like 300 points away from Grandmaster or something like that. He was really close, but couldn't quite. He kept winning some and then losing some in the last day. So it was, you know how it goes, right? You go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, and he couldn't quite get GM, but he was really trying. Yeah.
And that's important too, because the higher you get, the more money you get towards charity. And I guess we didn't mention it, but this whole try hard for good bit is something that Blizzard put on. They invited some League of Legends like pros or past pros who are now professional streamers over to Heroes of the Storm to get coached by Dunk Train, Chew8, and KO for a week, and then they were set to the wolves for 3 weeks trying to level up themselves and rank up, in ranked play. And the higher they got and the more wins they got, the more money they would be donated to charity on their behalf. So just in terms of numbers, it was actually a significant amount that was donated to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Blizzard donated a total of $167,882. I don't know how. I wonder, it's probably the conversion from different currencies is why you got 882. I was wondering how that happened. But anyways, it was in NA, it was $93,900. That was based on Dyrus, Voyboy, and Skara. I didn't even know this was actually being done in other regions. I guess it must have been.
NA and EU.
Yeah, so I guess the EU, got more or less $70,000 ish towards charity US. Dyrus ended up winning the competition, if you want to call it that. He got 52,000 donated. Voyboy got 19,600 donated, and Skara got 22,300 donated, which is kind of funny because Voyboy actually placed higher, but I'm assuming it's because Skara played more games and they based on number of wins too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. That's a lot of money. Like that's like a pretty big prize pool if you're talking about like a tournament and such too, right? And just to give that all to charity is really generous. Do you guys think it was worth it? For like aside from the charity aspect?
Totally. Dude, we had so many not Heroes viewers. Like Heroes is doing way better on Twitch. It brought a whole new group of people into the game. Some of them you saw the typical League players, and I shouldn't bash League like this because League is actually a good game and most players aren't this way, so I really shouldn't say typical League players, but you get the League players that are like, yeah, HOTS is trash, I'm not going to watch you, right? There were a number of those. And I think it was a resounding success, though, overall. I think what was interesting, especially if you read the AMA that Dyrus did, and some tweets that he put out, and even the tweet longer he did, he liked the game. He enjoyed the game. He thinks it's better for spectators. He had a lot of good feedback about it. But ultimately, he's going to go where the money is, and so he's going to continue to stream League because that's where people follow him and pay him, right? Which is kind of a bummer. Like, I wish we could step up and afford to pay. Like, we as a community, not we like the three of us, right, or Blizzard, but we as a community could attract that level of streaming talent because, like, for the little time he played, he impressed me.
Yeah, the AMA is a good read too. A couple of things stood out to me. Well, I think one question was, what bugs you the most about Heroes, and one of the things he said was, it's too easy to come back. He was saying I think he gave the example of like a Sonya feeding 12 deaths early game, but then it didn't matter because you win a few team fights near the end of the game, and you can turn the tide pretty quickly. And actually, that's one of the things I like about Heroes. I guess maybe coming from League of Legends, you spend half an hour, like you want to make sure that if you're winning all that, you don't just lose it in a couple of team fights near the end, right? So I mean, I don't play League of Legends, but I'm assuming based on the game length, once you're ahead, it's probably harder to grind back based on what Dyrus is saying. The other thing about Dyrus is it's so hard to tell when he's excited, This way he talks.
Oh my god.
It's like, I really like this game, guys. It's really fun to play.
So I told so Mystic and I have a friend, Tuna, who you've played with a couple of times, Daz.
Yeah.
And I told him I was watching Dyrus because to me, Dyrus was trying the hardest, so I wanted to watch his stream. And the first thing he said to me is, dude, I think you'll like Scar or Voyboy better. And I was like, why? He's like, because Dyrus is really chill, and like he doesn't like, there's no tilt. He just is, and he plays, and he just does his thing. I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, I might like one of those two better, but Dyrus is like clearly taking this seriously and really trying to do well, and like every day, well, not every day, but like pretty much as close to every day as a League streamer is gonna be, he was playing Heroes and streaming, like.
And he says he thinks he's improved in team fighting mechanics because of it. Because in Heroes, there's a lot of team fighting, right? It's a lot less, I guess. I mean, I probably shouldn't speak to it because I think I've played League of Legends once, but I'm assuming there's a lot less team fighting based on the length of the game, the long laning phases and such. So he said that in general, he thinks that Heroes of the Storm players are better at team fighting because it's a larger aspect of the game, and he thought that was pretty interesting. He thought he kind of grew from that. Did you want to talk about his scrims and such at all, LiQuiuD, since we're talking about Dyrus now?
We can talk about it now. It's up to you. I'm good either way. We might as well. Let's just go into it now. Sure. We don't need to wait for my esports corner to go over Dyrus because Dyrus is just a cool guy to talk about. So if you didn't know or you weren't watching, last week Dyrus actually scrimmed with Team 8 against none other than Tempo Storm. So not only was it, hey man, we're gonna take you in the deep end and you're playing pro, right? Not that he doesn't have pro experience, but he's never played pro HOTS before, especially at top 8 NA level. But we're gonna play the #1 team in NA. Like, I mean, that's the deep end if ever there was one, right? Like, the only way it's more serious is if that was a league game and they were just throwing him into it. It was scrims, so everybody had a good attitude. But what was really cool for me is not only were most of Team 8 streaming, if not all, but so was a lot of the Tempo Storm guys. So you could actually get comms from both sides if you wanted to. And Tempo's manager, coach guy, I'm totally going blank on his name now, and I apologize for that. He's a good dude, and he's on Twitter all the time. He was streaming as a caster and like casting the game. So if you didn't want to hear the comms and you just want to watch like from a normal casting point of view, he was doing that as well. So it was really cool to watch the scrims. But I feel like listening, first of all, listening to Glaurung shot call, if you ever aspire to be a shot caller or you're on any kind of amateur team anywhere that has a shot caller, like encourage that person to go watch that VOD because dude, Glaurung shot calling was like, I was like, wow, that's what a shot caller should be like, you know?
So looping back to our Creators of the Storm tournament too, you're like, oh, it's so cool because you could listen to both sides.
Right.
You could listen to someone casting. That's what we're doing for our Creators of the Storm tournament too, right? That's our hook.
No, that's
maybe
why
they
so
caught
cool.
wind of what we were doing, and they're like, yeah, we'll do the same thing because we got Haloran casting it, being like the caster, and then we're gonna stream each side of it too, so you can listen on comms. So, and
that's what made it so cool was that like they were doing what we're gonna in essence do at the tournament. But so Dyrus did pretty good in the scrims, but you could tell, and this will come into play later when Mystic and I are talking, but you could tell his game knowledge wasn't quite where it needed to be. Like there were times where I'm watching it, right? And like Glaurung's calling for something and pinging the bush where he wanted Dyrus to burrow into, right? And Dyrus would do it, but it would be like 2 seconds too late. And I'm like, oh, if that had been just like, if he knew exactly like instinctively where Glaurung was pinging, like that was a kill, right? Or you would watch him like, and I've done this. You go the wrong way around because you think it's the right way because it's closer, but it's the wrong way because you're like wading through the enemy team to get to where you're trying to get to. So like there were little things like that which weren't mechanical things. It was just map familiarity and like game knowledge, right? Like those things, you could tell those things were missing in the scrims. So which set him up though nicely to go into actually playing 4 Team 8 on Saturday. Because there were no games on Sunday.
I like how you're subtly pushing the viewers, listeners,
Right.
towards your side of the debate,
No,
which we're doing later today.
That
doing
was
a
actually
debate.
the Mystic side. Because I was saying he was missing his game knowledge, and you could tell, right? So here's where I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot, but that's okay because I'm gonna be honest here. So I'm watching the game Saturday, and you have I think it was No Tomorrow. Why am I going blank on this? Against Team 8. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. And like, how do I describe this? They purposely didn't draft to take what Dyrus could play away. But after losing the first game and having him kind of do things to you that, you know, because he's a strong mechanical player. And they gave him d.va. And he's actually really good on d.va. Like, his tongues are, like, insanely good. Like, I aspire to have tongues that good when I'm playing d.va. Like, it was crazy. Just watching, I was like, Jesus, he picked the game up, like, 3 weeks ago, and this dude's landing tongues that are, like, insanely good. But, like, at that point, as No Tomorrow, you got to be like, all right, we have one of two options here. We either say, you know what, we're going to let Dyrus play his 2 heroes that he's good at, which is LiQiuD and d.va, or we ban one of them and, like, really twist the screws, right? And, like, we need a win, boys. Like, let's get a win. But, you know, either way, it wouldn't have really made a big difference in No Tomorrow, and I think that's why it was kind of like, we're just going to play to play. And so it was obvious that's what they did. He was stronger Saturday than he was Thursday night, game knowledge wise, so you could tell. And then one of the things he said in his tweet longer and in his AMA was that scrimming and playing at a professional level, like, showed him the difference between his grinding at Hero League versus, you know, and like, so I think he did good. I think it went well. So
Okay, so outside of Try Hard for Good and Skara, or sorry, Dyrus, there's one other little thing we want to point out in just something that kind of came up through Reddit is that Genji's Shuriken can actually clear Zag creep, which seems to be somewhat of a bug. Blizzard has acknowledged it, and they said they're going to fix it. But still, you can take advantage of that for now. Use Genji. Anything that clears Zag creep, especially something like Genji's Shuriken, are a pretty useful little tactic.
right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go into LiQuiuD's esports corner.
Hey yo, how you doing? It's time for LiQuiuD's Esports Corner. That's right. And you're gonna want to stick around for this.
Take away LiQuiuD.
All right, so we already went over Dyrus playing in scrims and subbing, and I'm just gonna say one more time that it was pretty cool to watch, and I think they did a great job. Crone and Udall lost a game, and they had to cut their hair this week, shave it down. Udall completely bald, like Caldor level bald. Crone more like maybe a little bit longer than mine, but like my level bald, like the back of my head kind of bald, where I haven't lost all my hair up here like I have. Crone looks pretty good though, and Crone graduated, so Crone is now out of school and just a full-time college student, which is pretty cool. And on to the only things I really wanted to go over today, just because I'm keeping the esports corner short, is the open divisions. So in HGC EU open division, we do have Team Gang Gang and Team Zealot going to pick their opponents this week for meeting in the Crucible, not this coming weekend, but next weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend here in the US. And then in the NA Open, we had another couple of surprises. LFM Esports didn't make it. UTA didn't make it. But we did have Team Zealot and Even in Death make it in, with Even in Death being the number 1 seed and Imported Support being number 2. I think I said Teams Out there just because Daz blocked off my view for half a second there as I was reading that. All right, so NA Open Division, Even in Death, and Imported Support are going to be the 2 teams that get to go into the Crucible. From Open Division, my personal opinion, Naventic's over. They are not getting out of that Crucible alive. No Tomorrow has a chance. We'll have to see how that goes. But more importantly, Stepladder playoff this weekend for Midseason Brawl. So if you have any love for any team that was not number 1 seed, you should be watching this weekend. Korea, NA, EU, and all going to go through a stepladder playoff for their midseason brawl spots for the number 2 seed. DB Smiley and I have been going back and forth about China. Turns out the number 1 and number 2 seed in China are the 2 to go. There is no stepladder playoff there. No ties, no nothing, just the number 1 and number 2 team, which have been set. We'll cover those teams more next week when we do the preview for the Crucible and a preview for the midseason brawl.
Are you done?
I'm done. I told you I keep it short this week, man.
That's got to be a record. I gotta say, what was that, like a minute or two? Luckily,
man,
it was
like
long
4.
enough that I could fix our audio issues because now everyone can apparently hear us, so that works out. But
right,
yeah, that's got to be a record for the shortest LiQuiuD Esports corner ever. Okay, so let's move along then, shall we? We got D.Va to talk about. She's gonna be the first of the 3 heroes we're gonna focus on today. So D.Va, if you don't know, is the Korean former StarCraft pro turned mech pilot from Overwatch that is now in Heroes. The only thing she's missing is World of Warcraft in there because she's been in every game now. So she's been much eagerly anticipated and long awaited. I think when we went on the Realm Maintenance podcast, me and LiQuiuD back in January, and they're asking us what Overwatch characters we wanted to see, and D.Va was the one that was top of my list. I think LiQuiuD, you said, did you say Lucio?
Reinhardt. No,
you said Reinhardt. Okay, so maybe we'll have a little bit of intuition here. Maybe Reinhardt will be the next one even. But for those of you that again don't know, D.Va is very unique in Overwatch as well as in Heroes in that she exists in 2 modes. She's a mech pilot, so she exists in mech mode. But once she can jump out of her mech, or if the mech gets destroyed, she goes into pilot mode where she's just little D.Va running around the battlefield, a little squishier, but also a little higher damage. So, that being said, let's go over her kit. Her trait, she's got 2 modes, like I said, mech mode. When D.Va's mech is destroyed, she's ejected after 0.75 seconds and can continue to fight in pilot mode. Destroying D.Va's mech only awards 50% of the normal XP, which is important. It's really tanky too, by the way. Pilot mode. Each basic attack reduces the cooldown of call mech by 0.5 seconds, and that's what she uses to get back into mech mode. As a pilot, D.Va only awards 50% of a normal hero's XP upon death. One important thing to note, though, if she jumps out voluntarily and you kill her in pilot mode, you are awarded 100% XP for the kill. It's similar to Rexar, too. If you kill Rexar, but his bear is still alive, you still get a full kill for that. You don't just get the 0.75 or whatever they give you for killing Rexar, if his bear has already been killed before. Okay, and she can't mount in mech mode, but she can mount in pilot mode. So while in mech mode, she has a movement speed reduction of 15%, which it hurts. You guys played much D.Va at all?
I haven't played much of her, but I've played a lot against her. There are many of them in Quick Match.
Yes. I've tribe moded her a couple of times. She's not for me. She's like Arthas. Arthas is great. Arthas is not for me. Like, I just can't do it. So I feel the same way when I play her. I may eventually pick her up, but yeah, no.
I think you'll actually like her, LiQuiuD. I gotta say, in general, I mean, we're gonna go over her basic abilities now, but when she's in mech mode, she doesn't have a lot to do other than just positioning and auto attacking, and she's got her Q. But it can be a little bit boring until you get a little bit later game and you can jump back and forth between pilot mode a little bit more frequently. But anyways, let's go into her basic abilities. So on her Q is boosters. So on a 10-second cooldown, this is her mobility. That kind of makes up for her 15% lack of movement speed. It increases D.Va's movement speed by 125% for 2 seconds. So I believe that makes it go up to like 200 and something percent. So it's fairly fast. Enemies that are hit take damage and are knocked away. One important thing to note too, it's not like Chen's barrel, because she's unstoppable, right, Mystic?
I'm not 100% sure on that one, actually.
Or it might just be slow. She can't be slowed while boosters are active. I think she can still be stunned and such. But it's kind of like Chen in that you're like an unstoppable force, but obviously not unstoppable. But when you hit someone, you can only hit them once, and moving through them again will just move you through the character. So you have to make sure, like, when you pump them away and you knock them back using your boosters when you run into them, you're knocking them in the direction you want to, because if you're trying to do an initiate, you can't bump them one way and then bump them back a few times. You've got one bump. You got to use your bump accordingly. So something important to note when you're playing D.Va. On her W is Defense Matrix. It's a 10-second cooldown. You channel a defensive field in the target direction for 3 seconds. It's a big rectangle, more or less, in front of you, reducing damage dealt by enemy heroes inside of it by 75%. The mech can move while channeling, but it cannot turn. So you whatever angle you're positioned in is the angle that your rectangle is going to be focused on. You can't alter that later. Damage dealt to the mech by enemies within the defense matrix still grants the same amount of self-destruct charge. I'll get to that in a second. So defense matrix is your damage mitigation tool. You have to have it on the heroes at the time their abilities hit, not the time they're cast. So if there is a delay, like Pyroblast is the greatest example. If KT Pyroblast and you've got him in a defense matrix, it doesn't matter. He's got to be in it when it explodes to mitigate that damage by 75%. So her third basic ability is self-destruct. It's on her E. Now, this is only active in mech mode, and basically it's kind of like Tracer's pulse bombs. It starts at a 0% charge and moves up to 100%. When it gets to 100%, you can use it. And the way you build it up, there's 2 ways you can do it. You gain 1% charge for every 2 seconds spent using basic attacks, and you also get 30% charge per 100% of mech health lost. So when you do have it built up, you press the E button, you pop out of your mech, and it starts to explode. You put in self-destruct mode, and you get this growing circle around your mech that grows and grows and grows and grows until it gets to the area of effect. And once that inner circle reaches the outer circle, there's an explosion that happens, knocks heroes away, and the closer they are to the center of the blast radius, the more damage it does. And it's an insane amount of damage. Now, it does 50% damage against structures. And another important thing to note, too, is it's got momentum if you're using your booster. So if you boost in and you jump out of your mech while boosting, it'll keep going in the same direction. Apparently, you can press Q again to stop it. I haven't had much luck with that, though. It's probably just my mechanical skill coming in here. But you can throw it towards the team or throw it towards where you want to go. One other important thing to note, too, is it still does act as a hero. So Stitch's hooks or knockbacks will affect it. So, if D.Va messes up like I do often, you got Stitches on your team, you can pull it back to where it needs to be. I'd love to see a play like that, actually, where you throw it out and everyone runs towards the team because you looks like you missed, but then Stitches just goes nope, pulls the mech back towards everyone just as it's about to explode. But still, so that's an important thing to note about her self-destruct. So when she's out of her mech, she's in pilot mode, and she gets a new ability on her E called Call Mech. It's on a 45-second cooldown, and she basically, once that expires after 45 seconds, she can go back into her mech. It's important to note, if you self-destruct your mech, this just is off cooldown right away. So you can pop back in to mech right away. So this is only on a 45-second cooldown if your mech dies. Very important to note, because one pretty common use of this is, you go in, you self-destruct, after you're almost down to nothing, then you get in your pilot mode, you can almost get down to nothing again, pop back in your mech, and you basically have 3 life bars. So that's one of the reasons I feel like she's a very hard hero to kill. Okay, heroic abilities. Then I promise we'll get into the discussion. She's got 2 heroic abilities, Bunny Hop and Big Shot. Bunny Hop, you have to make a selection here. Bunny Hop only works in mech mode. Big Shot only works in pilot mode. Bunny Hop is a cute little animation. Looks like she's in mech, just hopping around. It's even this 8-bit soundbite that goes along with it. She becomes unstoppable and stomps every half second. That's her jumps every half a second, dealing damage and slowing enemies by 40%, and it lasts for 4 seconds. So there's a lot of CC and a lot of damage there. But the other ultimate is Big Shot. This requires pilot mode, and you use it on your R. It's got a cooldown of 3 to 5 seconds, something around there. It deals damage to all enemies in a line. It's a fairly long line. It's almost like a Gazlo laser length, almost. And if you hit heroes with that, Call Mech's cooldown is reduced by 8 seconds for each hero hit. So you can really use it to drastically reduce your Call Mech. Okay. So that's her kit. We're going to get her talents in a bit, but first I want to talk about her a little bit. Mystic, you said you've played a lot against D.Va. What have you found, and what do you think D.Va is, and how does she fit into this Nexus?
All right, well, I found her, actually, she's an alright hero in my opinion when playing her. And I found that while I was playing with some of my friends, they said she was very fun because you were able to ignore a lot of the assassins and stuff like that come at you, right? So, Genji, he doesn't do that much damage to D.Va, nor does Valir or something. So, you can ignore some of those. And then I've also found that playing against her is kind of frustrating because she's so tanky. Like, you go in, you try to kill her, right? You get her really low, and then like you said, she uses the explode mech thing, right? And then so you have to run away from that. And you go in, you try to kill her again while she's in Little D.Va, but then because she used her explode mech, she now has her mech back up. So now she's back in her mech, and you have to take out that health bar and her baby D.Va health bar yet again because she's very, very tanky in that aspect. And honestly, the only like counterplay that I've come up with is when she's in her mech form, ignore her completely. That is the best counterplay that I've come up with. And
It's
in my
true,
mind, I'm
though.
like, that kind of stinks.
It is.
But I can't think of anything else, honestly.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't provide a ton outside of the zoning from her explosion and like a little bit of peel from her Q, her boosters. She
Exactly.
does like a little bit of damage, but not a ton. So I feel like you can ignore her. But the problem is she takes on a lot of aggro. If for like you World of Warcraft players, I think that's a term, right? LiQuiuD. Like
Yep.
you go in and she's noisy. She's a disruption tank, I think is what I've heard other people coin her as too. Very similar to like a Chen. Like you're jumping around, you're being noisy, just doing stuff, but not necessarily like providing the initiate or like the solid peels and stuff that you typically expect out of a tank. What do you think, LiQuiuD?
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I guess I come down to, if you know what you're doing, Mystic's right. You just ignore her. So if you're smart enough to play the game outside of like bronze, you should be able to ignore her. Because she really can't do much. Yeah, her stupid defense matrix is annoying. 75% reduction. Move. I think it'll be interesting to see what the pros do. Because I don't know. She's almost like a reverse healer. Like, not so, like Zarya-esque, right? But instead of protecting you from damage, she's lowering the incoming damage.
Do you guys feel like defense matrix is a little lackluster though? Because you can't attack while doing it, so you're losing the damage you're outputting, and you've got to try and keep people in a zone. It's not like they're stunned or like you're putting a shield on someone that they can move around with. You have to make sure it's timed on the character, not on the target, which adds, I think, an extra level of difficulty. Not to mention that the angle can't be moved too, so you're kind of stuck in your position, or you cancel it, but still, like, it feels like I wasn't using it that much. I feel like the most of the time I was using it was when I was trying to provide peel for someone who's running away, right? You run after the person with the defensive matrix on, they essentially do no damage. You've got like the Cassia runaway problem, right? But I didn't find a lot of value in it. I mean, like occasionally, but just it was more sporadic than constant value, I guess.
So I want to share I'm going to share two things. One is probably the most unpopular opinion you'll hear in Heroes of the Storm right now. I wish D.Va was never brought to Heroes of the Storm. She's not, like, it needed to be Reinhardt, in my opinion. That's who the Warriors should have been, not D.Va. Or even, Roadhog? The problem with Roadhog is he's very much like Stitches, so how do you have two of the same character? You really shouldn't, which is why I think Reinhardt was the right one. Or even the big gorilla guy, I'm totally going blank on his name now. Winston. Like, even Winston would have worked. D.Va, I feel like her kit doesn't quite fit, but I don't know, maybe that's me. But having said that, and I'll be happy to talk more about that, I'm looking at a tweet from Zoya, who just said that Dunk Train was on the TV where they're boot camping right now. Dunk Train, of course, ex-pro, master player, 30-some-odd wins in Hero League right now, and D.Va is showing up as his most winning character. So maybe everybody knows something I don't know. I don't know, man. I just don't like her. I don't think it quite works. And I agree with Belkram. Roadhog would be a good Stitches skin.
You know what? I feel like she's not a tank, right? She's got a very unique, almost unique role in here. And like you said, you can counter her by just avoiding her. Or I guess the other counter I found too is if you got a variant or any sort of like taunt, stun. As soon as the mech is blown up, you just stun her, right? When she's popping out, and that tends to work too. But I don't think we should be thinking of her as a tank. It's more like she gets in there.
She's definitely
and
like
she
a
tries to
wannabe
eat up
bruiser.
resources, right?
Right.
And that's what she does well. And one thing we didn't mention too is in pilot mode, and I believe it was Cavalier Guest did a little intro, like a little analysis video on D.Va, and he said that she does number 3 DPS in the game in pilot mode in terms of auto attack damage per second.
Yeah.
It's basically, he compared it to 50% Zul'jin health. So like that's a fairly substantial amount of damage. Not to mention at level 16, she can, I think, increase it by 75%, 100%, or whatever with her GG well played talent too. And she can put out a lot of damage. The thing too is, I mean, I feel like a lot of people haven't figured out how to 1v1 her yet. You can sit there 1v1, you'll be going, and they'll be like, okay, they think they're winning. Then you're just like, oh, go back into my mech. You're at like 25% health. I'm back at full. There's nothing you can do here.
Yeah.
And you can blow them up pretty easily. And I felt like when I was playing her, I played quite a few games on D.Va. It was a variety of outcomes. Like one game, I topped damage and I felt really good, but I feel like maybe the player that I was playing against didn't really figure out how to play against D.Va. But then other games, I just felt like there was nothing I was doing to help the team. She does, like I said, she can provide some peel. Like if someone's chasing your teammate, you can bump them out of the way, and that's usually enough to get them out of the way, and you got your defensive matrix. But and then like when you're in the fight, that the self-destruct is an amazing zoning tool too. You put that anywhere, everyone's running away, right? They're not that if anything can disrupt the flow of a team fight. It has some value. It takes a long time to get that self-destruct charge up though, which is one of the problems, I guess.
You know what I think my problem with her isn't that I think of her as a tank, right? She's clearly not a tank. I don't know, I feel like her kit doesn't quite work. And you know what my biggest problem with it is? So Tychus had Odin nerfed a long time ago where they got rid of the second health bar for him. So his health bar is his health bar. And now you introduce a character where it's 1.5 health bars. So
well, even 2.
I don't want to say...
Right?
Yeah, it's potentially
right. It's
2.5
potentially
health
2.5,
bars.
right? Because if she's doing it correctly, if the person playing D.Va is doing it correctly, they're self-destructing and then they're immediately popping back in their mech, or close enough that like basically they have 2.5 health bars, right? Where Tychus got nerfed, and so it's like, okay, Blizzard, I see why you did that at the time, and maybe you should revisit that decision. But I don't know. I don't know. It's off. It just doesn't feel right. But it's just me, right? Yeah. I know that that's not going to be the more popular opinion. That's my opinion.
She's got deficiencies elsewhere. It's not like she's got like a hard stun or a lot of like, it's not like her self-destructs up every 10 seconds or something, right? Like she seems to be a fairly balanced character. You head over to Hot Slugs right now. Last I checked, she was 49% win rate. I mean, it's pretty balanced.
No, she's clearly balanced, right? I'm not trying to say she's not. I don't think the kit, I don't know.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see her in pro play, because I don't see where her spot would be there necessarily. And that's probably something you could speak more to there. And that's probably where you're coming from, right, LiQuid?
Right. And I think that's part of the problem, right? Like I consume so much esports that my view is now skewed from what is it like to like how does this fit into regular day in day out play, and more like, is this best for a competitive game, which is really weird when you think about it. And maybe there's a place, but I struggle. And that, you know what, Daz, I think you put your finger on it. I struggle to find, like, what do you replace to bring her in? Right? You're not, like, maybe your solo laner is what you replace to bring her in, but does that make the most sense? Because she does decent damage, even in mech. Like, she can clear a lane, sort of, but she lives forever. So does she lose that 1v1? Well, eventually she does, because you're going to get the pros figuring out how to 1v1 her. And at that point, she loses the 1v1. Or does she? Because, like you said, she has 2.5 health bars. It's very, I don't know. I don't know.
Mystic, have you heard much from the pro side of things as to what they think about D.Va in general?
Not exactly. I think that basically what we said, she's a very tanky hero, but she doesn't really have that much aside from like the self-destruct zoning, and that's basically it, honestly. Like if you're in small D.Va form, like pilot mode, right, she does output like pretty insane damage. However, if you focus her down, then you force her to go back into her mech, and then you kind of lock her there, right? You don't really attack her that much. She can't explode, and so she's locked into that low damage, like low utility kind of form. And then, like LiQuiuD said, well, you wouldn't pick that then if you had something else that you wanted to do, right? Like, if you wanted more stuns or something, you pick up like a Muradin or even like Johanna, like Blessed Shield and stuff like that. So,
I mean, if she has her self-destruct charge going into a team fight, you can almost go in, try and soak up as much resources from the enemy team as possible, pop your self-destruct, get out, and you can basically be like a short-range Rainer, right? With a lot of with a lot of damage, so you can provide the damage after hopefully having soaked up a bunch of the resources of the enemy team.
But I would challenge that there are other heroes that do that job better. So,
yeah. But do they get full health bars back?
I get what you're saying, right? Can they run in?
They've got
they
got two ancestral healings baked into their kit, right? Plus one of them explodes.
If instead you have a good mid-div who protects you when you go in, then your health bar doesn't change anyway, right? So
lower skill.
I don't know. I don't know. It's gonna be weird. I look forward to when she's available to HGC, which won't be till after mid-season brawl. I think if I remember correctly, I saw Crucible would be on Genji patch with Genji available. Mid-season brawl will be on D.Va patch, but D.Va will be banned. Okay. So I don't think we'll see her until post mid-season brawl after the buys.
Well, let's move along because we still have another two heroes to talk about after this one. We're going to go over a talent tree. We're going to try and do it fairly quickly. We've talked about it pretty in depth, and we'll make comments as we go through the talent tree along with what we think are the important talents to pick, which ones are the garbage ones to pick. So level 1, D.Va is D.Va's mobility tier. Right away, you got to make some decisions on how you're going to be using your boosters. She's got Rushdown. This, again, affects her Q or boosters. If D.Va neither takes nor deals damage during boosters, its cooldown is lowered by 5 seconds. This is what you use if you've got a large map and you need to get around, because 15% reduced movement speed hurts, especially on like a Warhead Junction or a Cursed Hollow. Hit the Nitrous Q. Again, this is surprisingly the most popular one. And Cavalier Guest right off the bat said it was pretty garbage, and so I believed him, and I tried it a couple times, and I can see why. What it does is it gives initial speed boost of your boosters is actually increased to 475%, but then decays normal boost speed over half a second. And during this time, boosters deal 100% extra damage. So that's kind of like the sexy talent, right? You get a big initial speed burst, but I do think, the fourth one here that I'm going to talk about in a second definitely outshines that in most situations. Okay, Crash Course, next one, it's a questing talent. Damage enemy heroes with boosters. A reward after damaging 25 heroes. Each use of boosters lowers its cooldown by 1 second per hero hit. And then finally, Pro Moves, and this just kind of affects her trait. This is one with the best win rate, but not the highest pick rate at the moment. D.Va's mech gains 2% movement speed for 1 second every time it takes damage, up to 30%. So the reason I like Pro Moves, and the reason the Cavalier Guest mentioned it too, is if you're in a fight and you're taking constant damage, you'll actually get your move speed up higher than a standard hero, and you can get that mobility in the team fight out of it. Maybe this is more like the quick matchy bet. If people are ignoring you, you don't get as much value out of this, but it does stack pretty quickly.
I think Crash Course ends up being the unsung hero of that tier, personally.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking for a little bit of appeal and such too, and if you got a lot of Cimero type or Vikings, you can run through them all, right? And you can basically get everything down. Like it's a 10-second cooldown, so you hit a few heroes, it's basically down to like a 6-7 second cooldown. Yeah, is there anything else that you guys like here? I like Pro Moves, and I think Cavalier Guest kind of echo that, but Hit the Nitrous does seem to be the most common.
Oh, everybody loves that talent.
Yeah, I was gonna say I pick it not when I want to win the game, but when I want to have some fun.
Fair enough.
It's a very fun talent.
It goes fast too. Okay, let's go to the level 4. So this is a defensive matrix tier for the most part. First, she's got Diverting Power. This is not again for defense matrix. The area of defense matrix is 100% wider and 25% longer, but D.Va cannot move for the duration. I'm fairly certain this is pretty garbage. As soon as you can't move, people are just going to move out of it right away, even if it is bigger. Get through
Look,
this.
she's a sitting duck. She's set up. Let's kill her.
Just like Sylvanas mind control, right? Like you just move around it and hit her for 100% damage, right? So Get Through This is the next talent available on this tier. Increase the duration of defense matrix by 3 seconds. Fusion Generator, and the third talent on this tier. Every time an enemy hero deals damage while inside of defensive matrix, D.Va's self-destruct charge increases by 1%. Maximum of 15% charge gain per use. And finally, Bring It On. Self-destruct's charge amount gained from losing mech health is increased by 30%. A lot of people are taking the last one because it helps boost your self-destruct, and it's the easier passive talent. Also, I guess my thoughts on this, I don't like defensive matrix that much. I don't think it needs to be adjusted too much. Maybe there's some argument for Fusion Generator there to get some boost to self-destruct charge there if you're using it a lot. I don't know. What do you guys think about this one?
I think that Bring It On is generally the best one because it just allows your self-destruct charge to gain that much faster. Fusion Generator I could see using, like, depending on your playstyle, and so the same with Get Through This. However, what Get Through This doesn't actually tell you about that talent is that the cooldown of defensive matrix starts when it ends. Ooh. So if the duration is increased by 3 seconds, then that just means like your cooldown starts 3 seconds later, right?
So it's still off cooldown for the same amount. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here's the one thing I would point out. I think Fusion Generator might be the more pro pick because your idea there is that you're going to keep people. The whole point to this hero has 2 points, right? Self-destruct and keeping people in the defense matrix, right? So if you are good at keeping people in the defense matrix, in theory, Fusion Generator is a better talent, and that's the whole goal of playing a D.Va. So,
yeah,
2 cents.
No, I agree. Level 7, we've got a few talents here, or 4 talents. Coming through on our Q, knockback distance of boosters is increased by 100%. Dazer Zone. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
on her W, enemy heroes affected by defense matrix are slowed by 20%. I feel like it should be danger zone, but whatever. This is probably a meme that I just am too old to understand.
No.
Aggressive matrix on her W. Basic attacks in mech mode against heroes lower the cooldown of defense matrix by 0.25 seconds, which I guess works pretty well with Fusion Generator from the previous talent here. And then finally, nuclear option is increased self-destruct's detonation timer by 3 seconds. Is that right? 3 seconds. Detonation damage increased by 50%. I thought it was 1 second, but I guess 3 seconds. A new mech can still be called after 4 seconds. So what do you guys like here? I was taking nuclear option, actually. I know people have longer to run out of it, but I feel like people are generally going to run out of her explosion radius anyways, and it provides a little extra time on her zoning tool with self-destruct.
I think the Dazer Zone works much better with Fusion Generator because you have that slow. So now you're forcing them to stay inside the defensive matrix just that much longer, and so you get 1 or 2 extra ticks of them dealing damage while inside of it.
Think how good nuclear option could be on a boss, though.
For sure,
it's
right?
Like a nuke.
Yeah.
My only point was that if you end up going Fusion Generator, I think Dazer Zone actually ties into Fusion Generator really nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of a nuclear option, so the D.Va that I was playing against didn't take nuclear option. However, it reminded me of a game that I had last night. So I was playing Genji, right? And Genji doesn't do that much damage to D.Va, honestly. And then so I was like, wait a second. So D.Va is using self-destruct a lot because my teammates are hitting her a lot. But what if I deflect it? And what if I take Zanshin at 20?
Ooh.
So I was like, this is interesting. So I managed to get the deflect stacked up like really high at about like 13 minutes or level 13. I had it at like 10,000 damage reflected already because I'd walk into the self-destruct and I just hit my deflect right as it was about to blow up, right? Unfortunately, I was not able to get to 20, nor was I able to get to use the 13 talent because, or not 13, the 16 one, I believe.
Yeah.
But think
the 13 or 16.
Think of the counter there, though.
Was it because you won?
Yeah, we won too quickly before I was able to reverse nuke their team.
Oh my god, that would have been so awesome, though.
That'd be amazing, too, because it'd do the damage back to everybody based on the damage dealt to you, right? Whatever is 3% of damage from the center of the blast radius. Oh, man.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that would have been
No,
really good.
no one would expect it too, and suddenly you just like
Nah.
wipe the team with a single deflect.
Well, it would be like the first week of Genji where you had teams like going all in on Genji, and he was just wiping all of them with reflect damage. But it would be like 100 times worse because it's like, yeah, there's no escaping this.
Genji's kind of annoying with D.Va too because your attack rate is so high. If he does deflect, it sends a lot back to you. And
Yeah.
the problem is, it's not like you can just kind of click off of him because of the way your targeting works. You just end up moving a little bit to the side, but you're still doing damage, or you got to stop move or whatever it is to halt the action, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is I don't even know what button that is. Is it H for halt action? I don't see this. Like I never play Tracer or need to use that button, so I wouldn't know even what key that's mapped to do that. Yeah, crickets. No one else does too. So just make sure you try not to like attack Genji while he's deflecting.
Man, I play a tank. There's never a time I need to halt doing stuff.
The only time I think is maybe Tracer too, if you want to stop after you're targeting somewhere, like a Lucio, I guess. Because you do want to stop auto attack. I think it's H for halt move, but because the S will stop you in place, but you'll still attack whatever's near you. A lot of people use S for stutter stepping because it can adjust your position better than using a move.
Right.
But I'm not sure exactly what halt move is. Okay, so level 10 heroics. What do you guys like here? Do you guys like bunny hop or do you like big shot? What do you think? What do you think, LiQuid? You're the tank. Do you like the bunny hop, the tank bunny hop?
I don't like either. I don't like her kit, but if I'm forced to pick, right? So in all seriousness, I really, I don't know. She feels off, but I like bunny hop over big shot, only because if I'm gonna play D.Va, I want to be in the mech. I don't want to be out of the mech. It scares me being out of the mech with that tiny little health bar. I get why people choose big shot though. So like I understand it, but I don't know. I'm not a big assassin player, so like playing that style doesn't really gel with me either, which is I think probably the other reason I don't like her kit in general, because I don't like playing either way with her. But I prefer bunny hop at this tier.
Mystic,
sorry, that was ranty.
You play a little bit more assassin than LiQuid, and you play a bit more flex rolls too. So what do you think then? Like, do you take the big shot for the poke, because it does have a decent amount of poke from a good distance too?
I honestly think if bunny hop is not necessary, then you want to go big shot, because bunny hop is really good for initiation. So if you're a single tank D.Va, you're probably going to be taking bunny hop, and if your opponents are good at locking you like in your mech, so that they're like not attacking you as much, so you can't self-destruct or get out of your mech a bunch, then you're gonna have to take bunny hop because you want to be doing something instead of being like not, locked in your mech and not doing anything. But big shot, if you can take it, you should, because while you're in pilot mode, you actually do a lot of damage, and while pilot mode has the low health pool, big shot kind of circumvents it a little bit because it makes your range so long, and it's only on a 4-second cooldown. That combined with D.Va pilot mode being resourceless, besides of cooldown, right? Then you can poke and do a lot of damage from really far away.
So I feel like I should point something out real quick to anybody listening or watching this. Please, for the love of all that's holy, don't solo tank D.Va.
Yes. Like we said, she's not really a tank.
Right.
Even though she's labeled as a warrior.
But Mystic mentioned it, and I want to make sure that everybody understands we're not endorsing solo tank D.Va.
Yeah, even in quick match, Blizzard has come out and said officially that she's classed in with Sonya and Thrall as a bruiser role for matchmaking queues. So you wouldn't, hopefully, in most cases, see a D.Va go up against like a solo tank like Murden or EVC or something. So
Right.
Okay, level 13, we've got expensive plating. This increases the mech's health by 20%, but also increases the cooldown of callback by 15 seconds. This does not decrease the amount of self-destruct charge gained. She's got emergency shielding. When D.Va's mech would be destroyed, it instead gains a shield that absorbs 209 plus 4% per level damage over 6 seconds. This effect has a 15-second cooldown. A blade of armor. This is mech mode only. Damage against D.Va's mech that would deal 5% or less of maximum health are reduced by 50%. This does not decrease the amount of self-destruct charge gain. I surprisingly like a blade of armor here. I don't know what you guys like. especially in the D.Va mirror match, because D.Va's auto attacks are below that 5% threshold. So if you're 1v1ing another D.Va, they're like, why am I not doing anything? You can hit her pretty hard in that long outlasted duel than she can. And a lot of abilities surprisingly do a small amount of damage in quick succession. Like Li Ming, all her charged missiles are low. And even her laser too, you'll get 50 armor on all of her laser. Like I think Cavalier Guest, again, who I watched his little analysis too, he said that the vast majority of abilities in the game that aren't like burst mage abilities are actually fairly low damage, less than 5% of D.Va's health, and she's got a big health pool, so that's not a small amount.
So first, I agree with you. I think a blade of armor is the way to go, but expensive plating is not bad. However, see, this tier is what really throws me off, because I feel like Blizzard almost wanted to make her a tank, but couldn't quite get themselves to do so. Right? They're like, here, we're going to give you a bunch of shielding skills, but you're not really a tank. You're a bruiser-ish person. Expensive plating, I think, has its place. If you're going to play that playstyle where you're like, I'm going to hop out and destroy my mech all the time. Like, if you want your 2.5 health bars to get you that much further, expensive plating is the way to go. But I think a blade of armor is definitely the go-to. Certainly more than Hot Slogs is currently showing the popularity on those 3 talents.
Do you think emergency shielding is kind of the garbage pick here? I feel like the shield isn't nearly enough to do what it needs to be done here. It's not like Joanna, right, level 20, where she can actually get out and get away. Like generally, if you're taking that much damage, you're gonna blow up regardless.
You're gonna die. Yeah, no, that's the trap talent.
Yeah, they're always trap talents peppered throughout heroes' talent trees. That's why you got the Nexus Trolls to point them out for you, right? Okay, level 16, we got 4 talents. Torpedo Dash, cooldown 12 seconds. D.Va gains a Torpedo Dash ability, allowing her to dash forward and pass through enemies only in pilot mode. So it gives her a Q in pilot mode, kind of similar to a Vala Vault. Level 16 that pretty much everybody's taking, though, is GG, well played. Increase pilot mode basic attack damage by 75%. Participating in a takedown while in pilot mode also instantly refreshes the cooldown of Call Mech. She's got a lot of damage in pilot mode already, increasing by 75%, plus getting the refresh on a takedown. Pretty powerful. I can see why it's up there in win rate as well as pick rate. Next, she's got Nano Weave Suit. For 4 seconds after ejecting from her mech, D.Va gains 50 armor and her basic attacks grant 50% more cooldown reduction towards Call Mech. And finally, Suppressing Fire. This is a pilot mode passive. Pilot mode basic attacks have 20% increased range and slow enemy movement speed by 20% for 2.5 seconds. Is there any reason not to take GG well played? And is it going to get nerfed next week?
Yes, it will be nerfed soon. 100%.
Yeah, I think GG well played is just like the overall, it just eclipses everything else.
Yeah.
While everything else is good, it just eclipses everything else.
Exactly.
I don't know about Nano Weave Suit being good.
It's tough though, right? Because I can't pick anything other than that when I'm playing her to ever figure it out, because it's just a very strong talent and a very big talent or a power spike for her at level 16. As soon as she gets out, she can do a lot of 1v1ing damage and pop back into mech, after losing her squishiness, and she'll be fine, and she can potentially pop back into mech faster too. Like maybe they'll have to reduce the cooldown instantaneously on a kill or something to nerf that a little bit, but still pretty powerful level talent. Level 20, she's got Stop and Pop, the Bunny Hop augment. Bunny Hop deals 150% more damage if D.Va isn't moving at the moment of impact. Pew, pew, pew! Instead of a single shot, Big Shot fires 3 shots over 0.5 seconds. Each shot deals 50% damage. Concussive Pulse, cooldown of 8 seconds. D.Va gains the Concussive Pulse ability, allowing her to deal 141 damage to enemies in a cone and knock them back. This is pilot mode. Kind of like a little bit bigger than Jaina Cold, Cone of Cold pushback. You can kind of think like Lucio pushback there, but a little bit bigger. And then Mecha Fall. Call Mech is instant and can target a location. Upon landing, the mech deals damage to enemies in the impact area. So you can get a little bit of almost like a little Bolt of the Storm too with your E there. What do you guys like here? I feel like Stop and Pop is pretty garbage for Bunny Hop. LiQuiuD, as the person who's probably going to take Bunny Hop, do you agree?
Yeah, I would not take Stop and Pop. I also wouldn't take Concussive Pulse. I guess if you really needed it, but no. It's Pew 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 or Mecha Fall. I always read that as Mecha Fail, but it's Mecha Fall.
Yeah, I like Mecha Fall here. Like, it gives you that positioning as well. Okay, well, let's move along because we've got, again, a couple more heroes we want to talk about today, but I think we did a pretty good job of summarizing D.Va. She's a hard character to get a handle on. I definitely suggest everyone take a try at her. She's a lot of fun, and she plays a lot different than any other hero that has existed in the Nexus so far. Okay, so now we get into Tyrande's rework, and this is the one I've been waiting for. Tyrande is a hero I didn't start playing until a few months ago, but I fell in love. Daz is to Tyrande as LiQuiuD is to Valeera. I can't get enough of playing Tyrande. I liked her before the rework, and I gotta say I like her afterwards as well. After playing her in the live patch, I don't think she's as OP, except maybe on Battlefield of Eternity, as people thought she might have been coming out of the PTR. Let's go over her basic hit changes. She's more or less the same. There's just a couple changes to how some of her existing talents or abilities work. So she got a bit of a reduction to her basic attack damage. Her heal on her Q, this is probably one of the bigger ones. It no longer heals yourself when healing an ally. So it's just a standard burst heal to whoever you put it on. The cooldown is increased from 8 to 12 seconds, but the cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds per auto attack. So that can actually be up pretty constantly if you're auto attacking. Heal amount has been reduced by 15%, and the mana cost has been reduced from 45 to 25. Sentinel has a baked-in quest, which is a lot of fun, because I always felt like Sentinel, if you weren't going Sentinel build, was very resource intensive. It was very expensive, didn't do a lot of damage, especially early game. Every 8 heroes hit, it will pierce 1 extra target, and the mana cost will be lowered by 10. So you can actually get that to equal 0 mana by the end of the game if you hit enough heroes and pierce the whole team. Finally, Shadow Stalk only affects Tyrande. Now, it's been completely changed from where everyone gets stealth and the heal. It just affects Tyrande. There's no heal involved, but it gives movement and attack speed bonus the movement bonus while you're in stealth, but attack speed bonus and movement bonus while you're out of stealth for a few seconds. Starfall's radius, by the way, has also been decreased by about 17% to try and balance these out. So before we get into her talent tree, what do you guys think of Tyrande? She's a lot of fun. These healers in general, I feel like, are getting a lot more utility. One thing I've noticed with Tyrande is if you want to get a lot of value out of her, you got to be auto-attacking all the time. Very Karazim-esque in that regard. What do you think? Mystic used to be a support main?
I really like what they did with like her auto-attacking kind of healer aspect of it. And then that also, in turn, like, they buffed her Hunter's Mark kind of build too. Yeah. And her what was it? What's the stun? It's like
Lunar Flare?
No, Lunar Flare, yeah, that was it. So they took a little bit away from that, and then they took a lot away from the Owl build. So while I do like what they did with the healing and the auto attack, I don't really like how the Owl just is kind of lackluster, and the Lunar Flare it's almost like it was nerfed in a sense, because you can't just take the range now. You have to take like the talent at level 1, and then you give up a lot of stuff for that. Like, you don't have the Ranger's Mark cooldown, and then the Owl build thing is also on level 1, so you kind of have to choose.
Yeah, and the one big thing that really struck me too is you can't talent a lot into her Owl, and we've now lost the ability. Like, you still have the ability at level 1 to do it where the longer it flies, the more damage it does, but it doesn't come with an increase in width too. So throwing it from a long distance, it's a little bit harder to hit your heroes. Before, I think you got like 200% width increase of the Owl. Now it just stays at the same width, so it becomes a lot more difficult to hit. But I feel like she got, let's go over her talents, because she did get a lot of utility in her kit here. I feel like you can do the auto attack Ranger's Mark build like Mystic was talking about here, or you can kind of just go like a general, like, what's good for the comp build too, because there's a lot of different choices you can make here. And I think there are a lot of choices that just really depend on the composition of your team as well as the other team. So level 1, Mystic mentioned, you got to make a choice here, and it's W, E, or her Hunter's Mark. On level 1, she's got Ranger. This is for her W. Sentinel deals more damage based on the distance traveled, up to 75%. However, it's also got a repeatable quest. Hitting enemy heroes with Sentinel increases the maximum damage bonus by 3%. Now, late game, I was kind of clocking around 50 to 80 heroes hit, so you can get quite a bit of extra damage out of this, but still, again, it's not like it was before, I think, and it takes a lot more to scale up higher. Lunar Blaze is her next talent you can take here. Repeatable quest. Hitting heroes with Lunar Flare increases its damage by 3%. Reward after hitting 10 heroes, Lunar Flare no longer has a mana cost, which is kind of cool. Also, after hitting 20 heroes, increase the range of Lunar Flare by 40. And finally, Ranger's Mark. Basic attacks reduce the cooldown of Hunter's Mark by 1 second. And repeatable quest, every 60 basic attacks against enemy heroes increases the duration of Hunter's Mark by 1 second. This is the Battlefield of Eternity pick for sure. I've seen a lot of people have been taking Lunar Blaze, and I kind of see why, again, with Ranger not being as strong as the Owl build was previously. Like, is Lunar Blaze the general way to go here, unless you're going Ranger's Mark, Hunter's Mark build here? What do you guys think?
I really like the Hunter's Mark build, honestly. Unless they have a lot of blinds, then you kind of have to go Lunar Blaze, but yeah.
Right.
Do you think it's safe to say the less coordinated team talent is the Lunar Blaze? And like, because I feel like if you go Hunter's Mark, a lot of the talents kind of require everyone to be focusing your Hunter's Mark to get a lot of value out of it. And Hunter's Mark has always been, required a little bit more team coordination to get off properly too. Is that why you think you're going with Ranger's Mark? This will probably be the esports and higher level tier talent pick here, you think?
I think that, along with like Hunter's Mark, right? You can go with the Shadow Stock, which is one of her new ultimates, right? Well, I say new, but anyway. So you can go with that for a more single target, or you can take it with Starfall, which at level 20 actually grants vulnerability to everyone, which would synergize with your Hunter's Mark picks.
It synergizes with everything. That's insane.
Well, I mean...
Insane proc talent. Okay, let's look at our level 4s here. Moonlit Arrows on our queue. Basic attacks decrease the cooldown of Light of Loon by an additional 3/4 of a second. Celestial Attunement on our queue. Light of Loon removes stuns from its target. When the stun is removed this way, Light of Loon may be used for free within 3 seconds. This free cast cannot benefit from Celestial Attunement, but you still get the heal. Then finally, Calderai Resistance. Light of Loon grants the target 15 spell armor for 6 seconds. This effect stacks up to 4 times. I was taking Moonlit Arrows and having a lot of success there, because if you're constantly auto-attacking, that helps pretty much every build that you can come out with. But I guess there can be a lot of argument for the other 2 talents. What do you think here, Mystic, as the resident support main?
I think all of these are really good because unless you're, against an enemy team that doesn't have like any stuns, in which case, you're probably not going to take Celestial Attunement, but it's like Butcher, Uther, or honestly anybody with stuns, then Celestial Attunement is really good. It's like a cleanse that if you're auto attacking is up every 3 to 4 seconds for stuns, and then Moonlit Arrows is really good if you need the extra healing, and then Calderai Resistance is really good general use because everybody has spells, so you're going to be blocking something or another with this, and since it stacks up to 4 times. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, and you can pump out a lot of heals if you keep the auto attacking up too, especially like you said with your ultimate. If you end up taking whatever that one that was reworked was, not Starfall, the other one. Why do we
Shadowstock?
We keep talking about it and like just stuff flitters out of the head. I guess that's just us getting older. Yeah, so a lot of good utility on this talent tier here, and a lot of just situational choices, I guess. Level 7. Huntress's Fury. Tyrande's basic attacks against targets with Hunter's Mark splash nearby enemies, which was actually slightly changed in this patch. The splash radius has been reduced from the PTR to live. Darnassian Archery. Basic attacks against enemy heroes grant a stacking 5% increased attack damage bonus for 4 seconds. This bonus is lost when basic attacking non-heroes. True Shot Aura is our final one here. Cooldown of 60 seconds. Passively grants 10% increased auto attack damage to nearby allied heroes. Activate to double this bonus for 5 seconds. Okay, what do you think about this talent tier there, Mystic?
On the PTR, Huntress's Fury was actually insane because it worked on
Yeah.
every single enemy. However, since then, Blizzard nerfed it to only affect heroes and mercenaries. So while I would say that one was the way to go, it's now not as strong. It's really good if you they're all clustered up. Darnassian archery is also fairly good if you want to go for that single target auto attack build, and True Shot Aura is also really good if you have a bunch of backline auto attackers.
One thing I like about True Shot Aura is it's all the time 10%, even just to you because you're always within range of yourself, right? And you can activate it to get 20% as well. Whereas Darnassian archery feels like it's a bit more of a high skill cap, and you only get the advantage of it for, Huntress of Fury. You only get the advantage of it for a few seconds. Darnassian archery too. I hate talents. I mean, sometimes you have to take them, but I hate talents where you're forced to attack certain things because, like, you sit there and wave. You're like, I don't want to lose my stacks.
I can't attack this wave, so I can't do what I should do because I need my stacks.
And it feels like it messes up your play style, so you're not playing optimally to keep that auto attack up. And it's not a ton, like 5% extra auto attack per hit. I mean, I guess can stack and get ridiculous because there's no cap on it, but still, I feel like it'd be a bit difficult of a thing to do. Level 10. So her Shadow Stock has changed, like I mentioned before. It's on a 30-second cooldown, so it's available quite consistently. She gets stealth and gains 30% movement speed. When Shadow Stock's stealth is broken, she gains 50% attack speed and retains its movement speed bonus for 5 seconds. Note, stealth here is indefinite as well, so she can just use it and run around the map, mount speed. And just, as soon as you get into a team fight or whatever, she still maintains it for the first 5 seconds of the fight. And then Starfall, which we all have known and loved, has been slightly decreased in area, but it's still a nice zoning tool as well. LiQuid, what do you think about these two ultimates here?
I still like Starfall personally. Shadowstock is good and probably going to be the go-to, but I feel like Starfall is a great zoning tool and a great area of effect damage if you have, like the Wombo combo setup that you're looking to land.
Yep. Okay, level 13, we've got Quickening Blessing, which Light of a Loon increases the target's movement speed by 25% for 3 seconds. Empower reduces Sentinel's cooldown by 4 seconds each time it hits hero. Harsh Moonlight, Sentinel slows the target by 30% and reduces their damage dealt by 30% for 4 seconds. Harsh Moonlight seems pretty crazy to me. I don't know about you guys. Getting 3% reduction on a Sentinel target by 30%, and the fact that Sentinel can pierce seems pretty strong to me. Any reason to take anything else here?
No.
I think Quickening Blessing has its uses.
Of course you do, Mystic.
Hey, I really like it if, you can't catch up to a target, you just use it on yourself, you're much faster. Yeah. And then if you're like, I don't know, your Lunar or something is getting chased down, and since she can't mount up, right, you could use it on her, get her out too.
It's like a poor man's Lucio talent, right? Like getting your speed boost on her Q. But I really like Harsh Moonlight, and I'll back that to the grave. Level 16. Okay, we've got Overflowing Light. While Tyrande is above 60% health, Light of Loon's healing is increased by 30%. We're all familiar with that talent. Mark of Mending. Tyrande's basic attacks heal her for 2% of her maximum health. Basic attacks against targets with Hunter's Mark heal the attacker for 3% of their maximum health. Again, this is one of those Battlefield of Eternity picks, which is nuts. You mark the Immortal, and everyone just starts healing like crazy, especially if you took your level 1 that reduces the cooldown of Hunter's Mark on every auto attack. You almost have Hunter's Mark up 50% of the time. You can heal your whole team up to full, essentially, as long as you're not getting harassed. And then Elun's Chosen is an activatable ability. Cooldown 40 seconds. Activate to make Tyrande's basic attack heal the target ally for 200% of the damage dealt. Lasts for 5 seconds. I tried that. Oh man, you got to activate on a target and then you got to start auto attacking too. I mean, you get, I guess, a decent heal out of it, but it seems like a lot of trouble for what it gives you. What do you guys like here? I think I tend to go Overflowing Light.
Yeah, I think you're right in that Mark of Mending is the kind of Battlefield of Eternity one, and then Overflowing Light is the more general use everywhere else kind of thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Level 20, Eyes of the Huntress. After casting Shadowstock, reveal all enemy heroes for 2 seconds. Celestial Wrath. Starfall applies Hunter's Mark to enemy heroes hit. Nuts. Shooting Star. passive. Increase basic attack range by 1.1. So every 10th basic attack against heroes, cast a free lunar flare at random hero near Toronto's position. Then Ice Blade arrows, another passive, increase attack speed by 25%. Basic attacks against enemy heroes reduce their damage dealt by 8% for 2 seconds. This effect can stack up to 5 times. These are all pretty nice, except for maybe Shooting Star. Shooting Star seems like the trap pick.
Oh, okay. No, never mind. I'm sorry.
The Lunar Blaze one, the random Lunar Blazes.
Yeah.
People are stuff moving around. Like you can't lead, you can't choose who it's going on and everything too. It just seems a little lackluster.
Oddly, people are picking that, but people aren't picking Eyes of the Huntress, which is a little weird to me. I
reveal every 30 seconds, right?
Right? Like, why would you not pick that? I like Celestial Wrath, but that's because, like previously stated, I like Starfall. And if you're going to go Starfall, like, why would you not go Celestial Wrath? Like, especially if you have the Wombo. Imagine a Void into a Celestial Wrath Starfall. Like, that team is done. They're not even going to know what hit them. Like, you guys are dead.
Ice Blade Arrows even has its place too. Like if you're talking single target, like not only is your attack speed increased by 25%, you're also reducing their damage by up to 40% by attacking them. Not to mention you hit them with an owl too. They're essentially, I mean, I'm sure what it caps out or whatever, but actually does damage mitigation that aspect stack indefinitely? Because it's vulnerability and armor, right? But this isn't vulnerability or armor. This is reduction in damage of output. Can you? That'll be something we have to test out. Can you owl somebody, right? If you take that talent before to reduce their damage by 30% or whatever it was, and get the 40% of this to get effectively 70% reduction in attack.
No, I thought it was.
Well, you get the 70 because defensive matrix is 70, right? Defensive matrix.
I thought it just took the highest value.
I don't know. I feel like
the highest thing was.
Perhaps maybe that's something we have to test out. But either way, fairly impressive. Okay. So we're going to move along to Alarak, and we really want to do our debate, so we're not going to go into him in too much detail. Sorry, guys. Maybe we'll have to catch him up on a different show if we have time, if Blizzard doesn't drop a huge patch on us next week. Mystic, do you want us to take us through? I say that every Monday, and then Tuesday.
No. Here's the thing, right? I swear to God, I'm not wearing my tinfoil hat. But with Crucible, the buy, and Mid-Seasons Brawl, we're not gonna have there's not gonna be a patch for the next 2 weeks.
I'm holding you to that. So Mystic, you like Alarak. Why don't you tell us what's changed? Maybe just kind of point out some kind of key builds or picks along the way as well. Because full disclosure, I don't play Alarak. I'm a horrible Alarak. I hate playing against Alaraks, but I couldn't comment too much on playing him.
All right, so Alarak got a pretty big rework, and for those of you that don't know, Blizzard transformed him into the essence of what was that one talent called? Growing Power?
Gathering Power?
Whatever that one, where you get a kill, you get a bunch of attack damage or ability power or something like that. But essentially now he gets sadism for every takedown, and since it's like Gathering Power, whenever he dies, he loses it. And they made Double Cross, which is the Kylo Ren lightsaber talent, that one. They made it baseline, so now it's much longer, and it goes to the side, which is really good for Alarak. They reduced the healing on his lightning a little bit, they increased the damage, via the talent, so they kind of had to reduce the healing, otherwise he'd be getting an Ancestral, every couple of seconds, right? And that'd be really, really insane. Anyway, so going through the talents a little bit here, we got Sustained Power, which increases the healing he gets from lightning surging people. And then we have Extended Lightning, which is a quest talent that if you hit after hitting 5 heroes in the center of Lightning Surge, and for those of you that don't know, you target something behind your supposed hero target, and then you get a stack. So after hitting 5, you increase the range by 20%. After hitting 15, you slow enemies in the center for 50%. For 2 seconds. I think that was nerfed to 40% maybe. And then if you hit 3 heroes in one cast, you increase your sadism by 10%, and this counteracts the reduction in sadism you get from taking this talent. And you instantly get the 20% range and the slow for hitting them in the middle. And then the last one, we have Ruthless Momentum, which is basic abilities recharge 20% faster when you're above 80% health.
So how nuts is Extended Lightning if you bunch up in the middle and he gets it like, you know,
Yeah.
2 seconds in, just hitting 3 heroes with a single cast? That's not difficult to do if people bunch up and don't go to lanes right away.
Mm-hmm.
They always bunch up and don't go to lanes right away. It's what they do.
I feel like that meta's
I've
got to
actually
shift
had that
soon.
No. No, you know what? The pros still do it. They don't they don't our level do it, right? Because they're smart enough not to like, all right, let's go ham. But you still see that.
But the pros know when to
in the middle.
leave is the thing,
I know. But we're like, if you think about it, we're trying to emulate the pros. So what are you gonna do? That's what we do. We say, all right, the pros go 4 or 5 to the middle. That's what we're gonna do. We may not know when to leave, and we may all go all in and like, I'm gonna get a kill. But yeah, like it's not gonna change anytime soon, man. I wish it would too. I think the time of that is over, but yeah.
Hi, Mystic. Why don't you tell us what you'd take here at level 1 before me and LiQuid bully off the mic?
All right, I think Extended Lightning is usually the one that you want to take because the rewards are so good, and then if you complete the quest, you essentially go even, right, with your sadism, because while it reduces it by 10, if you complete the quest, or if you get lucky and you like hit the heroes with one single cast, then you get the 10% sadism back, so that's always really good. I'm sure there's an opportunity to hit 3 heroes in the middle, somewhere or another, right? The other 2 are not bad. The increased healing is okay. The Ruthless Momentum is better if you're taking some of the other talent.
Okay, how about we just took a look at level 4, and why don't you just tell us which ones you'd like here in general?
All right, so we got Chaos Reigns, which is basically like the lightning talent, except with your Q. And then negatively charged, we have the increased lightning surge damage between if you hit them in the middle, and then it stacks indefinitely if you keep hitting them in the middle. Show of Force, it's the one that I kind of like, because if you hit them with all 3 abilities, it adds an extra like burst charge at the end. If you hit them with the pull, the Q, and the lightning, then it hits them harder. If you're going with the lightning build, then negatively charged is the one to go. If you want to diversify your damage a little bit, just go Chaos Reigns, and then Show of Force, it's the fun talent. And then here we have level 7. We have the increased silence duration, which was there before, and then telekinesis, they moved it down here, or the telekinesis slow, they moved it down here, and they reduced the duration of it, or not duration, the strength of the slow, so now slows for a little bit less. And we have applied force, which was moved from his level 1 to here. It does the same thing. It reduces your sadism by 10% and increases the push, right, and the range. And then at level 10, we have deadly charge and the counter strike. I tend to go counter strike because you tend to get focused a lot now because of your kind of status. If they kill you, you lose all your stacks. Deadly charge is the high risk, high reward. You do a lot of damage, but you have to go into the middle of their team to do that. Level 13, we got Blade of the High Lord, which auto attacks on targets increase your sadism, and it's only for a limited time. It's not forever. And so basic attacks against heroes refresh this duration. It's good if you're gonna go in really close, or if there's really big tanks that you need to kill. Pure Malice, it's the same thing as before. Anytime your allies die, you get more sadism. And then the new one, we have Rite of Wreck Shear. You mark an enemy hero for 300 seconds, and using your Q, your Discord Strike, will grant you 3% sadism for every time you use it on that hero. And if you kill them, you get 6% sadism, and it reduces the Rite of Wreck Shear to 10 seconds. So it's kind of like you mark, you kill, you get rewards for it. And then if you die, obviously you lose all your stacks, so your sadism, it gets lost. 16, we have Lethal Onslaught. Hitting a hero with Discord Strike, which is your Q, you get increased, like your basic attacks are granted bonus from your sadism, which is really good if you're auto attacking a lot and if you're hitting a lot of tanks or melee heroes. Lightning Barrage for the lightning build. If you hit an enemy hero with the center of your lightning, you can cast it again within the next 2 seconds for free. So, you got your little 1-2 there. And then lastly, for 16, we have Mocking Strikes, which it kind of goes hand in hand with hitting melee heroes, or because it's the executioner for Alarak. Basic attacks against stunned, silenced, and slowed or rooted heroes reduce the cooldown of Alarak's basic abilities by 2.5 seconds. And since he can silence someone or slow them, then this is actually really good. At 20, you have the selection of your other heroic, of the one that you didn't choose earlier, and we have basically the same ones, Last Laugh and Hasty Bargain, which essentially do the same thing as they did before. However, they changed Last Laugh so that if you use it and you hit an enemy hero with all 3 of your abilities for 3 seconds, then your health is not reduced to 1. So it's a free Bolt of the Storm if you are able to do that.
Cool. Rick Shear at 13. I've had a couple people in game like message team like, does anyone know what that triangle is above my head? Because it's not super obvious, right? And
that
the
means
other thing
you're
too
gonna die.
Yeah. Well, you can't see it on your teammates too. At least I couldn't visually see it when it was on somebody
I
else.
see what you mean. Yeah.
But I mean, it seems like Alarax are taking it. It's a fun talent, if nothing else, and it's indefinitely stacking, right? And kind of goes hand in hand with his sadism passive, where he gets increased sadism with heroic takedowns. Now you can even boost that even higher, right? But in general, like, how are you seeing Alarak? He's obviously like, you don't want to die, right? Because you lose too much stuff. Like, it's more than
you don't want to die.
You don't want to die. I know, I guess it's the obvious thing to say, but even more so, like, it's not like KT, like, oh, I got my convection stacks, I can play a little bit more like risky. You're always in that state where you don't want to die. And that's where I usually fail as a player, is when I have to alter my playstyle to make sure that I don't die so I can get my stacks on Medivh's Master's Touch or Kael'thas's Convection. But Alarak, I mean, it's very Alarak-y, right? He's always living on that edge. Is Alarak for everybody?
I'd say not, because you're right. You do have to change your playstyle a little bit. You do want to not die, and I don't think that's for everyone. A lot of people like to play Alarak just like up in your face, and they just throw all their abilities and then they die, right, doing as much damage as they can. And there are talents for that, but some of the higher risk, higher reward talents are the ones where you don't die. So
right.
And what is the counter Alarak? Is it more just you got to kill him?
Yeah, you just focus him down. He's still the same Alarak that you've known and maybe loved or hated before, and you just got to CC him and kill him.
Couple of stuns.
Are we gonna see pros being awfully scary with Alarak? I mean, Rich isn't a pro anymore per se, but what do you think, LiQuid?
I mean, he's as pro as he can get without being a pro. Right? Like, I mean, he was a pro for a long time, so in my opinion, he's still a pro. He's just not. But
you're missing the
I
point
guess,
of the question.
No, I know. I'm not. I promise I'm not. I don't know. I feel like if you're a good player, you're gonna do some sick things with Alarak. I talked to a guy, Mystic, and I know Ataro, who's high diamond, low master, and he does a lot of damage characters. He plays for the new guys. Loves new Alarak. He's like, dude, I can blow people up with Alarak, like, no questions asked. He does similar things. Well, he used to do similar things with Valeera until, God rest her soul, Blizzard nerfed her yet again. So, like, if you're good and you're a quality player, you can do crazy stuff with Alarak and get some kills. If you struggle with staying alive, stay as far away from Alarak as you can.
Yeah, high skill cap, but I feel like anyone who masters Alarak is going to be extraordinarily dangerous.
But, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, which is what he was like before this, too.
I mean, the cow rolls through and stuns him, and the next thing you know, he's dead. So it's all good.
You're just looking for an excuse to play the cow.
Dude, he's out to pasture. It's all about my blue-skinned primeval Diablo.
He'll be back.
Thing is sick.
These things are cyclical, right? He'll get a small buff, and he'll be OP for 6 months, and,
True.
Things will happen. Okay, Mystic. We haven't done a shakedown in a while. You ready to do one, sir? Okay, cue the jingle. Okay, Mystic, go right ahead, bud.
Okay, so my topic for this week is when to pick a fight. So, this game, like a lot of people have already said, it's a lot about team fighting and not as farming or, any of that stuff as much. Not to say that isn't important, but most of it is how the fights go down. Now, when you want to pick a fight is when you have... The first one is advantageous positioning. If you're, behind them or, so you have a straight shot at their backline. That is advantageous positioning. And their tanks are in the front. They're, in the front, but you guys are behind them, so you have straight shot to their backline. And if you could take them out really quickly, that's really good. So that's one of the times you want to pick a fight. Second one is picking someone off. There are plenty of heroes that do this. Zeratul, Nova, I'm naming off all the stealthies here, but they are the best at doing it.
Valeria,
Nova, number one player killer, right? And then so they're really good at picking people off that are just roaming around the map trying to do their own thing, whether they're rotating between lanes, which is honestly one of the best times to pick someone off. Then now, after you pick someone off, I'll go to one of my other points is numbers advantage. If you pick someone off, or if they're not here, if they're soaking a lane, if you're on a shrine, you have all 5 of your team members. Your opponents only have 4 members of their team because their Sylvanas is not going to the objective and is pushing down your bot lane fort. Now, this is the time that you want to engage most likely because they only have 4 and you have 5. Now, the next one is talent advantage. So the big one that I'm sure everybody knows by now, right? Maybe 9 to 10, where you don't have your heroic, because heroic is kind of a talent, right? That's a big one. And then another one is a level 20. Those are really big power spikes for heroes. So if your opponents don't have theirs and you do have yours, that is generally the time to go in, unless you can't help it. There are times where it's 18 to 20, it's a fight that you have to take. But yeah, generally you don't want to go in when they have a talent advantage. It's not impossible to win without a talent advantage, 15 to 16. It's not impossible to win, but you are disadvantaged from that. And you generally don't want to pick a fight when you're down a talent. And then we have, lastly, fighting over an objective. So you can choose to give up an objective sometimes. Sometimes that is the correct move. However, generally you do want to fight over an objective because if you just keep giving it up, then you're not using, the map to the fullest, and then you're at a disadvantage in that case. So you want to fight over the objective and use it to your advantage, Infernal Shrines. If you fight there, then Li Ming can't hit you with orbs as easily if they pick Li Ming on that map, or if you're fighting on your immortal, then there are abilities that you can maneuver your opponents into the stun. So you stun into a stun, that's really good. And then so stuff like that is always something to think about when picking a fight. And when you win the fight, then you'll want to take advantage and win the game off of other aspects. But I'll save that for another topic.
It's so frustrating when people don't follow these simple rules and force the fight for you. And sometimes, the one gung-ho hero, because it's, getting kills is sexy, runs in, wants to engage, and you're like, no, we're two levels down. There's no reason to do it here. It might be 3v5. What are you doing? Everyone always has that itch to team fight, right? And sometimes I guess the best thing to do is just nothing at all and just wait for everyone to come back. Okay, so we are going to skip over Dr. Daz's science lab because I'm in the middle of cooking together something for next week. So it's going to return next week with analysis of Season's marksman talents and how they scale throughout the game because, as you probably know, Illidan recently got a bit of a bump to his Seasoned marksman style talent at level 1, and it had me thinking, is this a good talent to take? You get a baseline amount of damage increase per minion kill, but over time, that numbers doesn't scale every time you go up a level, right? So how does it scale throughout the game in a practical sense? So I'm putting together some real world examples, trying to gather some statistics to see, how these talents typically perform early game, mid game, late game, and through and beyond. So I'm putting something together for that. So we'll have that for next week. But eagerly anticipated, we're coming up on the HOTS debate. Cue the bumper.
True power resides in the dark side of the Force.
No. Quicker, easier, more seductive, perhaps.
This is not a matter of debate.
A debate? This has become.
Okay, guys. So I am convening this debate, round 6, between Mystic versus LiQuiD. The topic this week is game knowledge is more important than mechanical skill. And that's going to be Mystic's side of it. He's defending the statement. Rebuking the statement is LiQuiD, our current champion and defender of the crown. The punishment is the loser. Are we doing this, guys? Must speak exclusively in the third person the entire next episode. And we're going to call him to the tape on that one.
LiQuiD approves this punishment.
So the format for the debate, the defender has 2 minutes for an opening statement. The rebuker has 3 minutes to rebut. Defender has 1 minute to rebut that statement. I will be asking 2 questions, one of the rebuker for a 1 minute response, then the defender for a 1 minute response. And then finally, the rebuker will have 2 minutes to close, and the defender will also the show with 2 minutes to close as well. And then each participant gets 1 audible, so where they can interrupt the other person mid-argument for a 15-second statement at any point. So this is very important. For those of you who haven't been following this, we've got a very rock, paper, scissors dynamic. LiQuiD always beats Daz. Daz always beats Mystic, and Mystic always beats LiQuiD. So we'll see if we buck that trend today. No one's ever won 2 in a row. No pressure, LiQuiD. So with that being said, Mystic, we're going to start off here with you. You are on the clock, sir.
All right, so game knowledge. It's very important. You're not going to get anywhere without game knowledge. While you're going to be able to hit your skill shots, or in first-person shooter games, right, hit those shots, you're not going to know where you are or where you need to be and at the right time to be there, right? And then so you're going to spend most of your time with the gray screen or at the graveyard or what game have you, right? And then so without game knowledge, you're not going to know what a lot of the enemies can do, so you're not going to be able to avoid them as well. Now I'm going to take an example here from what recently happened. We have the try hard for good, right? Now, while they take Skara, Voyboy, and Dyrus, while they are exceptionally mechanically skilled players, their game knowledge was lackluster before they were coached and before they had a lot of time to get into the game and actually learn, hey, this hero does this hero does this map you have to do these things, or this is how you play the map. And they were not able to get that high until they learned most of that knowledge. Alright, that'll be it for me.
Okay, LiQuiD, you have not an hour and 3 minutes. Let's change that here. Let's please, we don't want the show to go that long. LiQuiD, you've got 3 minutes. You're on the clock.
So, yes, while my esteemed colleague is correct, the try hard for good players obviously played better after they had that game knowledge. I would put forth that if you drop them into the game with no game knowledge, they would still at least hit the diamond level in the placement games. Mechanical skill will allow you to carry the team through the fights and allow your team to win long-term engagements, right? So if your mechanical skill can keep you close enough to the team that you can, to the other team that you can engage, you should still be okay. And I would use Dyrus's point that team fighting is much more important in Heroes of the Storm than it is in League of Legends to prove said point. Because if team fighting is going to determine what happens in the game, even to the point where he said it's too easy to come back and win a late game team fight and all of a sudden you win the map, then really mechanics are probably the most important thing in the game. The other example I would use is I have a lot of game knowledge. I watch this game constantly. I play this game probably not as much as I should, but I know the maps inside and out. I know what the heroes can do inside and out. My mechanical skills, not as good as Mystic's. Certainly not as good as Dyrus's. If game knowledge is really what's going to make a difference, man, I should be Grandmaster right now. But am I? No, I'm not. So
I'm going to use my audible. All right, LiQuiud. Maybe your game knowledge is not as high as you think it is. Okay.
Okay, you're back on the clock.
Is that your audible? All right.
Yeah, that's just my that's my audible.
All right.
You're back on.
All right. So yes, that could be a valid point. Although I'm pretty sure my game knowledge is about where I think it is, and I might not know everything. Right? I'm certain there are other people. Cavalier Guest's game knowledge is like impeccable. I do not approach Cavalier Guest's knowledge in game level. I don't think. But I think I have the game knowledge required. I certainly, having watched Dyrus play, Dyrus is clearly mechanically better than I am. But having watched him play, there are things I know about this game that he doesn't know. And I would never think that I was capable of playing at the level that Dyrus is capable of playing at in this game. Certainly not enough that I could, go play scrims with Team 8 and play a real HGC Premier League game with Team 8. I know I'm not at that level, and I'm okay with that. So I think mechanical skill is actually more highly required than game knowledge. You can always have somebody shot call. If I had Glaurung sitting over my shoulder telling me what to do as I was playing the game, and I had Dyrus's mechanical skill, yeah, I could probably fill in for a Team 8 game. I don't have Glaurung over my shoulder, and I don't have Dyrus's mechanical skill. Both of those things are what's required to really make you a top-tier player. But with mechanics alone, you can carry the game and enable your team to win.
There's the bell. Okay, Mystic, you've got 1 minute to rebut that. You're on the clock.
Okay. All right, so going with the Dyrus and Glaurung point, I actually watched Dyrus's stream right after he got or he played some of those matches, right? And right after he played it, he was like, I have no idea what to do. He's like, my game knowledge is like gone because Glaurung was shot calling the entire time. He was just telling me exactly what to do. And then so he was totally lost. Like, he may have had the mechanics. He could fight, sure, but he had no idea what to do. And
Audible.
That's important.
Okay. Audible's been taken. You got 15 seconds.
He may not have had the game knowledge and known what to do without having Glaurung there, but he still won those games.
Okay, back on the clock.
All right. So, yes. I mean, he had the buffer that his teammates knew more or less what to do, and so that guided him back into it. But while he had no game knowledge, like that point of just confusion, he was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then the last point here is when Blizzard actually introduced the maps, they were detrimental.
That's time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I get to ask a question of LiQuiud first. So LiQuiud, I'm trying to think of what my question is for time here. Okay,
just let me
so
finish, Daz.
yeah, I know I could. You're thinking mechanical skill is more important, and we've seen obviously Dyrus being placed into a situation with high mechanical skill and low game knowledge. He did seem out of place and did require that shot caller to do well there. Do you think that his mechanical skill could get him by in a situation where there was no shot caller in that kind of level of play? And do you think he'd be able to still compete at that level, being pro level mechanical skill player? That's my question for you.
Wait, I have a clarifying question just so I can understand your question.
Sure. I'm not sure if I understand it.
Are you saying that he could compete at the pro level with no shot caller, or he could compete at the highest level of Grandmaster with no shot caller?
He can compete in, like, if there were no shot callers, let's say like in a Hero League type scenario, with that kind of level of people with game knowledge. Do you think he could compete up there? Go ahead.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to use a note that I pointed out here. This is not a one-person game like StarCraft and StarCraft 2. This is a 5-person game. Even if a single person doesn't have the game knowledge they need, there are 4 other people on that team that may understand the game itself, right? So there will be pings, there will be chat, there may not be comms shot calling, but there will always be some sort of communication. And even if there's not, you can follow the herd around. And at the point you get to the team fight and the team engagement, at that point mechanics take over, and that's really where you see the mechanics shine. So yeah, if you're in a single person game like StarCraft, StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, something like that, not having that game knowledge is critical, and you'll never even approach the ladder. But in this game where there's 4 other players with you, and you can depend on them to at the very least follow the herd, mechanics becomes more important at that upper level, and that's the difference between Grandmaster and me.
And there's the bell. Okay, Mystic, question for you. So again, Mystic is going for game knowledge is more important than mechanical skill. Again, stalling for time so I can think of a question. So Dyrus came in again with a lot of mechanical skill and not very much game knowledge. You're arguing that he shouldn't have been doing well in this kind of situation, but he got to Grandmaster. Doesn't that kind of counter to your argument, sir? Okay, now that will be your question, and go.
All right, and so because he got to Grandmaster because he was able to gain that game knowledge. I'm gonna reference a tweet that Dyrus said. People asked him, hey, you getting to Grandmaster within like 2 weeks, isn't that like a really bad thing for the game? Doesn't that mean it's like too easy? But that's because he got professional coaching, he got professional advice from people like LiQiuD and all the people from Team 8 and all that stuff. He got a lot of help to be able to reach that point. And what is that but game knowledge? They're not going to be like, oh, hey, yeah, just get your mechanics better. They gave him that advantage. He had that advantage over people. He had professional advice, and what is that but game knowledge?
Okay, so LiQuid, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statements. You're on the clock.
All right, so I'm gonna first take a point that I want to go back to Mystic and say, yes, he did have pro coaching. Yes, he did have a lot of advice from various pros and high-level players. And yes, that did enable him to reach Grandmaster in 2 weeks. That feat, in and of itself, will never repeat itself without that kind of coaching. That's not my point. My point is that a person of Dyrus's mechanical skill that just puts in the time and does what needs to be done, the mechanics alone will be able to bring those players to Grandmaster level. They'll never be pro level without that coaching. They'll never be pro level without other people on the team that are also of similar levels that they can learn from and play together. There's a reason that Chair League Division 3 teams aren't pro division teams. They don't have the mechanical skill. They may not have all of the timings down, but they understand the game. So dropping someone in blank, sure, if I took any League of Legends players out there and dropped them in this game and said, I'll give you $20,000 if you can make it to Grandmaster, they would learn the game and they would carry on their way to learning the game because they have the mechanical skill needed at Bronze, at Silver, at Gold, at Platinum, at Diamond to carry those teams. And by the time they hit Diamond, at that point, their game knowledge is developed where they can continue on and get into Master and then get into Grandmaster and be like, what's up? I'm, number 55 in the world or in NA because I sat here and I busted my butt all the way through there and let my mechanics carry me through those beginning levels so that by the time I hit where I needed to be, I was ready to go. Dyrus also didn't have to go through all the BS of leveling characters. If we're talking a fresh account and a person from League of Legends, they got to level a bunch of characters up to 5 before they can even queue into ranked. That in and of itself is going to give them game knowledge. So yes, while he doesn't have Glaurung's game knowledge or Dunk Train's game knowledge or KO's game knowledge, the mechanics plus the leveling process will enable a person to carry and achieve Grandmaster.
Okay, cutting it close. And finally, we'll close off with Mystic. 2 minutes for your closing arguments. You're on the clock.
All right. So while that is the case, usually where all that is going to contribute to game knowledge, that just means like you need game knowledge to proceed into the game past the beginner level, right? So at the beginner level, depending on what your reference of beginner level is you're going to need game knowledge to proceed past a certain point. You're going to hit a wall before you are able to, before, like, mechanical skill is only going to get you to a wall. And then so we have the game knowledge that's going to get you past that wall. So game knowledge is actually really important. What I'm going to say also, I'm going to finish my point that Daz cut me off earlier, which was, so everybody knows that Blizzard introduced a patch for the maps, right? The introduction of the increased map pool. And while everybody is happy about this, it actually detrimented Voyboy and maybe Skara and Dyrus to a lesser extent. But Voyboy was trying to hit Grandmaster, and he couldn't because these maps that were introduced to the map pool, he had no game knowledge of. So he had a really terrible win rate on them. And unfortunately for the kids, he didn't reach Grandmaster. But he didn't have game knowledge of those maps, so he lost on them a lot more often, and he had to rely on his team. So unfortunately, his mechanics couldn't carry him through those maps.
So that's it then. I guess that's our debate, boys. So Mystic is officially blaming Blizzard for hindering the kids.
Sorry, Blizzard. I love you, but I don't know about that. The kids.
You could have held off on changing the map rotation for an extra week. Think about the kids, Blizzard. Think about the kids.
Think about those poor Make-A-Wish kids, Blizzard.
Okay, so that concludes our debate. I'm dropping the straw poll link into chat now. It will also be in the show notes and in the description of the podcast as well, if you're listening to this on the audio version, or in the description of the VOD on YouTube. So head over to straw poll, vote on who you think won. Mystic for game knowledge is more important than mechanical skill, or LiQuid for mechanical skill is more important than game knowledge. Again, the loser must speak exclusively in the third person for the entirety of the next show, which I'm looking forward to because it's not going to be me. And on that note, we're going to sign off here and we're going to close out the show. It's, again, as per usual, quite a long one. Thank you all again for listening to the Nexus Trolls, a Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we stream live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/the Nexus Trolls, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. LiQuiD, where can people find you online?
So I'm still not streaming right now because it's the off season of Chair League, but normally you can find me at twitch.tv/LiQuidGG. Also, best place to follow me really is Twitter, and that is at LiQuidGG, LiQiuDGG. I tweet when we go live on Nexus Trolls. I tweet when I go live on 323 Weekly. Tweet when I'm streaming, and hopefully soon Daz and I will be tweeting out another announcement about something else regarding Nexus Trolls. So follow us on Twitter. If not follow me, follow the Nexus Trolls and Daz.
Mystic, should people be following you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Mystic Shroud on Twitter.
He tweeted today.
I actually did tweet.
He tweeted.
Is it because I mentioned you in a tweet? I was like, I'm going to mention Mystic and see if he notices.
Well, that had a part to do with it, but I also tweeted because, we were doing the show, so, might as well get that tweet out there, right?
to your extraordinarily large, diverse follower base, right?
Yeah.
For those who don't know Mystic, we forced him into joining Twitter so we could have these Twitter handles on our VOD here and look pretty consistent. So definitely, follow Mystic. We're going to try and force him into being more active on Twitter as well. If you're looking for me, you can find me at DazHots on Twitter. One question for you guys, too. I meant to ask this when we were doing the D.Va portion. I noticed that her model, she doesn't have a zipper. How do you think she gets into her suit, like her pilot suit?
They paint it on.
It's just painted on it. I guess it makes sense. I was trying to figure out before. I was like, how does she get in that thing? Because the things you don't have to think about when you're designing a video game, eh? And thanks to all our Patreon supporters. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/the Nexus Trolls. The show is always going to be free. But if you're looking for a way to support us, you can head over there and do it over there. You can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, where you happen to find your podcast online, and leave us a 5-star review. And if you do, send us an email at podcast@thenexustrolls.com letting us know you did, and we'll make sure that we'll highlight the 5-star review on the show and the comment that you make. You can also visit our website at www.thenexustrolls.com to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel. For announcements about the show and general Heroes of the Storm news, follow us on Twitter at @thenexustrolls. And as LiQuiud said, we've got an announcement that's probably going to be coming shortly, so definitely stick around for that. And we might be doing we're going to do after show games tonight, you guys?
I have patching to do, so I cannot.
Well, we might do some after show games off stream, but just along those lines, if you /join the Nexus Trolls in game, you can catch me, LiQuiud, and Mystic hanging around there, and we can also give you the invite to our Discord server too. If you're interested in either playing with us or chatting with us, you can do so in game there as well. So everybody, thanks for listening. Mystic, LiQuiud, thanks as always. Everybody, have a great week.